Hello, my name is Sam Bast, and today I'll be talking about taking a break on a ramp. Topics covered will be force equilibrium, moments, free body diagrams, and the special force of friction. Learning objectives will then be to create free body diagrams, create and use moment and force equilibrium equations, and to include the special force of friction in static problems. So the problem here will show the different components of force needed to lift a dolly or of a starred item. And also the problem will show how the frictional force will keep the scenario in place. So in the problem statement for the specific problem is Sam here needs to know how much force to use to keep the dolly from rolling down the ramp since he's taking a break from moving stuff out of his parents' house. He'd like to know the X and Y portions of it, as well as the complete version, as well as the friction force affecting his shoe that is holding the scenario in place. With that, here are some specific information to help with the problem. Overall, the main things to take away is the smaller boxes are the same in mass and dimensions. The angle of the ramp is 30 degrees and the angle of the cart is 60 degrees. Also, the coefficient of friction is 0.2. If you'd like to stop and take a look at it more specifically, you can. Otherwise, the first thing to do with this problem is to draw the free body diagram. Main thing to keep in mind here is that the axis for X and Y is tilted 30 degrees towards the left. That's why when you look in the upper left corner, the X and Y axes are not straight up and down on left and right as you would imagine. So then the second step, but first for math-wise, would be converting the masses into their weight, in which another thing to keep in mind is that it is in English units. So the small boxes will turn out to be 10 pounds and the bigger box 20 pounds. Once that, the series of force and equilibrium and moment equations will need to be made. With that, there is an X and Y equations, and then there are two moment equations. One where the moment takes place on the tire, and another that is labeled force, but it more so is on the grip or handle. If you'd like to stop and take a look at that again, you can. With those equations, they will need to be simultaneously solved. And once that's done, the X force will be found to be 37.754 pounds, and the Y portion will be 53.099 pounds. Overall, the force to be found to be 65.154 pounds after doing Pythagoras' theorem. Continuing on with the friction portion of it, another free body diagram of Sam himself will have to be made. Again, the axis will be tilted. Also, the mass will have to be converted to weight again. However, a difference between the first part and the second part is that a test will need to be made for the friction, in which case the force of friction that is found is going to have to be less than the ideal force of friction that is found by multiplying the coefficient of friction by the normal force. So keep that in mind. With that, the force of equilibrium equation will need to be made with X and Y, and for the friction, it's going to have its own equation, as can be seen. They will need to be simultaneously solved again, in which the frictional force will be 59.021 pounds and a normal force of 295.106 pounds. And then, as I said earlier, it will need to be tested. And so it can be seen here that it does work out in the end. In conclusion, total force will need to be to lift is 65.153 pounds. The frictional force is 59.021. This would probably be a better homework or a test problem, and lectures 11 and 22 can be used to solve this.